Okay folks, as you can see, wrapped up one, another freezing day down at the barn. But don't let that stop us, because as you saw, I hope, two videos ago, we got the old Honda CB500T running, okay, and she ran quite well. To say that it was the first start in about 25 years of a 50-year-old bike, I was impressed. So that's kind of made me feel that we can do a lot more work to the bike, get it ready, maybe put it through an MOT and get the bike sold to somebody who would love to restore it as a good running and safe example, you know, a rider, doer-upper. So in my last video, I did the baffles for the exhaust. Now, there's some good reason for doing this. First of all, the baffles perform a functional task of balancing the exhaust gases, compression, back pressure, all that kind of stuff. The other thing is they look a lot better when they're fitted. The exhaust tidies up quite nicely. So that's why I did it. And it'll also help a little bit with the noise because it's quite a noisy bike. So with all that done, what are we going to do now? So because we want to try and put it through an MOT, when I did the front brake, two problems. Number one, I'm not happy with using the old rubber hoses. If you remember, we had to replace one and put a Suzuki hose on as a temporary. So hopefully today, tomorrow, I'll have some Goodrich lines delivered. Now, a lot of you might argue, oh, you don't want to go the Goodrich route, it's not keeping the bike original. Screw that. I want to pass on a safe bike. It's a hydraulic front brake, it needs to be right. I can buy pattern part, but to be honest, put some decent brake lines on. You can always put a piece of tube over and make them look a little bit more original, but that's not a compromise I'm prepared to make, so Goodrich lines. The other thing is as you might remember if you saw it, the caliper bolts on in two halves. You have the piston and then you have the rear brake shoe, and in the middle there's a plate that goes back to a pivoting arm that swings. So because it's only one piston, it allows the whole thing to move and centralize. I didn't clean the pivot. Probably 40-year-old grease. So we're going to take that, dismantle that off and give that a clean. Another job that needs doing is, although they're working very well, I haven't looked at the back brake. It's a drum brake. So what I want to do, and it is quite an involved thing because you've got to take off exhausts and bugger about a bit, but I want to get the back wheel out, have a look at the state of all of the brake components. You know, the shoes might be virtually worn out, so let's at least know what we've got. Give it a, pardon me, a clean up and a grease. So once that's done, I have purchased a new battery and we'll be looking at the electrics again. But right now I think let's get the brakes done so we can stop the bike, probably more important than going at this point in time. There's no point going if you can't stop. And yeah, we'll crack on and do that. So I hope you enjoyed tonight's show. Well, that's actually feeling really good. Let's see if I can get on with a ratchet spanner. Yep. So because these, I've just done it up, what a dick. Right, let's put the spanner on the other way. Because these are stainless, I've got a feeling I probably put these in the first time I ever cleaned this. So I would have either used Loctite or grease, and I'm sorry you can't really see a lot on this one. My big hand is right in the way, but you get the gist. That all went fairly well. So before I go any further, I'm going to take the caliper bolts out. So let me just check what size. Number 13 or 14. Yep, they're 14. So that's the back pad unit out. And the caliper bolts. So the other thing I need to do is undo the 10mm strainer. I was kind of hoping I could do that with the ratchet spanner, but it's not particularly tight, so let's get that nut off. Okay, so we've got the threaded bit out. So what I managed to do is I could get in here with a big screwdriver. It came out. I just needed to clean up a big screwdriver to fit properly. So that's looking like a 12. Is it a 12? Yes. I would honestly say that this is probably one of those jobs where sticking the whole lot on a lift under the front forks would benefit, but I don't have my stand here, so it's a bucket device, and what we're going to do is we'll just hold that little bit there. That's steel, so I don't need soft jaws. You put my gloves on because, as you might well guess, anything metal is chilly, to say the least. Right, so this bit should turn. See what we can do with a bigger set of grips here. Well, that's good. Some WD-40. Before I do that, let's just clean that up a bit. Right. So hopefully that will have helped expand the aluminium just enough. And as you can see, we've actually had a little bit of success with that. Now, maybe what I wasn't aware of is inside this aluminium housing is a bush. So what we might do is give all this a clean up and maybe wash that out, I don't know. So first thing, let's clean all the old grease and gunk off here. Take this to the wire wheel and give her a spin. Okay, so we've cleaned up our spindle. I don't know if you can see, but around here you've got a bit of a dip in the middle, and that's so that when that fits through, these high spots pivot on the bracket on the bushes that are in there. You've got like a little rubber washer there. That's to stop grease. There should be one also, I believe, on the base. I believe. On the top. There's a groove in here where that washer sits, and this keeps this oil tight. Yeah, that's a rubber washer. So I'm pretty sure that this shouldn't be full of grease. I think those bushes are meant to have oil in them. So I think we need to have a clean up of these arms internally. So the first thing I'm going to do is give them a, just off camera here, because it's a messy business. I'm going to give them a good soak in our penetrating oil. Now, as I'm getting older, I've started to use gloves a little bit more. I don't think you get the feel of the job you're doing, but you know, if you're using oils, solvents, brake cleaner, it can just prolong your skin a little bit longer, I think. Now what I've got here is a bit of Scotch-Brite, but to be honest, I have used scouring pads in the past if you haven't got Scotch-Brite. And I'm just putting this in here. Keep an old cloth like this handy. I use it for wiping up all the oily bits, and then over the winter months it sits on the vise. It really does help protect the vise a little bit. Now, I don't know how successful this is going to be. I might make a total mess of this. What I'm going to try and do trap this, not my gloves, in the jaw. I'm not really bothered which way it goes. I do want it on high speed. Yeah, that seems to have helped. It's cleaned everything up a little. We'll have a look at that in a minute. So finally, I'm just going to draw a bit of blue roll through to wipe off any excess. Check that out. So this is a one-piece bush that runs all the way through. Okay, so that's good. Now, so the first thing is we shall replace the seal. Now it looks like the ones I've got are slightly bigger in diameter, but I don't think for 1 second that's actually going to cause any problems. And what I'm going to do so I'm going to apply a little bit of grease so that the new seal and the external flange is greased. The reason I'm doing that is it's just thicker. Okay. Next thing I'm going to do, let me put down something here because I will make a mess. You know I will. So I'm going to oil the shaft. Oops. Now, as you can see, I can easily move that with by hand. Okay, so we've got that bit. Didn't make too much mess. Turn over a new leaf, obviously. So the other bit is to grease up the second O-ring, and then we can reapply our aluminium fitting. Right, I can feel a little bit more tension now as I'm moving this, and that means that this is sat down on top of the O-ring, and I didn't want to leave too big a gap because moisture can get in. I wanted to slightly sandwich the O-rings. Yep, I think that's perfect. Okay, so as you can see, that's very free. I can move that by hand. So that's pretty much now ready for refitting back onto the bike. And that, my good friends, is the work on the front caliper done. More brake work as soon as we get the new hoses, but that's for another day. Right, so the first thing we're going to do is tackle the top banjo bolt. And there will be brake fluid coming out of here, so I would imagine we're going to get covered in it. Okay, that's the first one. I'll try. Now the second one is underneath the front forks. So there's our first hose out, and what we'll do is we'll fit the Goodrich now in place. So making sure we've got the washers on there. I think this will be, if I remember rightly, a 13. Yeah. Let's get the other washer out. Let me just check what that is. No, it is a 14. What we need to do is make sure it's properly centred, which I don't think it is just yet. This is the top of the first pipe. Now, to be honest with you, I'm not totally crazy about the fit of this. Now, there are two kits for this bike. One is for high bar and the other is for low bar. And I'm pretty sure that this is the high bar variant of the bike. But it does make the pipe seem a little bit too long to me. But it'll work for us. I mean, if I really wanted, I could change the length of the pipe. They're not hard to remake Goodrich lines. But at the end of the day, it's on. Right, onto the bottom hose. Right, so we've rebuilt all of the lines, and now it's that job where I absolutely hate doing this, bleeding the brakes. So first thing, we're going to top up the master. Now these brakes should feel really spongy, and there's no brake action there at all. And what we're going to do is hopefully suck the air out and suck the fluid through. And to do that, we use a little vacuum thing. So we put the cap on, open the bleed nipple up, mind your ears. Don't forget to turn the air on. Try that again. Right, the fluid level is going down, so this is actually working this time. see fluid coming through the hose. Constant stream, it's looking good. Just going to keep on topping this because I don't really know how much fluid I'm pulling through. The internal diameter of a good ridge line is quite thin. Okay, so what I'm going to do is quickly close the bleed nipple. Just have a feel. Oh, that feels quite positive. Do a little bit more. Well, guys, I'm impressed with this. That seems to have gone solid. Job done in my book. Job done.